Thanks, everyone. I'm definitely not talking about cloud computing, by the way. Haven't got a clue what cloud computing is, although I was here all morning. That was I swear on my life that was an accident that I just said it. And definitely not going to pitch to you today. I've got no interest in pitching. The reason I'm here today is because I'm passionate about education. My dad's a teacher, the co-founder of our agency's dad is a head teacher. I work in education in a way because if you're trying to enable large organizations to take advantage of this wondrous stuff that we group under the term social media, then education is key. I wonder how many of you, could we do a quick show of hands, are passionate about technology here? Okay, cool. Wow. Looking forward to the after-show drinks. And how many of you are passionate about education? Excellent. So my emphasis is on the latter. I think you guys know much better than I what challenges you face, what challenges your institution faces, how all of this can be married to education, VLEs and stuff. What I want to do is to be deliberately thematic and bigger picture and think about the themes that I see, and hopefully if you just get one interesting thought, that will be worth 20 minutes. I have not got the answer. But I am fascinated, and you probably are too, about the way that the world is spinning and the way that technology, the internet, the social connectivity that has been enabled by the internet makes it feel like the world is spinning faster and faster. And I can't help thinking genuinely and passionately that education is right at the center of some of those centrifugal forces. Education, I think, will play a bigger aspect in the world for the next 50 years than it ever has before because everything at the moment is changing. This is a picture of the internet, and if we had more time, we could talk about the dynamics of networks. But I think we are only just getting our heads around this change, the change in how so many different things work: politics, learning, business, social relationships. A friend and someone I work with is a therapist, and she's just started getting clients coming through whose relationships and the way they form relationships are changing because of the lives they live online. Everything is changing because of this, the internet. So what are some of the themes? I think there are about 8, and I'm going to rattle through them because I've seen some of the other speakers' slides coming up as well, and there's a lot to get through, and it's really interesting stuff. The first, and I'm sure you're aware of it, but let's just play with it for a second, is fragmentation. I think of educational institutes as exactly that. They are institutions. They are, in their very nature, monolithic. They are structures. They have often a very real geographical anchor, a center. But the world of the internet is fragmented, and it doesn't care where people are from. It doesn't care where it gets the best answer from. Influence, authority, expertise are highly contextual. You know, who is the authority on a topic can change rapidly. So in this fragmented world, this idea of building monolithic online things to deal with learning in the internet age, I don't know how that can work when people aren't driving towards a destination anymore. They're not just beating a path for the answer to a technical problem with a bit of kit. They won't necessarily go to the website of that organization. We are scattered across the web. This is a widget that we built for Oxfam. So widgets, they live everywhere. Possibly they have no home. How do we cater for education in a world where fragmentation is everywhere and where people, us, we here today, increasingly create our own mosaic, our own tapestry with little bits of the web grabbed from everywhere? And then, you know, the challenges are just insane. There's the mobile revolution happening as well. So you look at the slightly scary statistics about how close our mobile phones are to us most of the time. You know, our mobile phones are always, almost always within arm's reach on average. And, you know, with Android and with iPhone and OV, Nokia's platform, how does education fit into this world? This is Tom Nixon, my business partner. He uses Nike Plus, which I'll talk about later. But his Nike Plus data is everywhere. This is fragmented. It's not just in the little widget in his shoe. It's not just in his personal website. but it spits out information into his Facebook status that people comment on. It spits out information into his Twitter stream. I know this is really basic stuff, and if you want to snark, you can and say, well, what's this got to do with learning? But it feels to me like everything is being unbundled and everything is being scattered everywhere, and how on earth, as people passionate about technology and education, can we deal with that? I can see one person nodding, so that's given me some confidence. Thank you. It's you. My colleague, Jenny Lloyd, made an amazing point about one of the challenges in this fragmented world. Does anyone recognize what this is? A what? Coke bottle. And apparently, I don't know if it's an urban myth or true, but the Coke bottle was designed so that if it was smashed into 1,000 pieces, even if you just saw one piece of it, you'd be able to immediately identify what it is. How does our educational institute remain instantly recognizable, instantly itself, yet be fragmented and scattered across that network? I have no idea what the answer is, but that might be one of the challenges that happens later down the line for you guys. This is a picture of my cat, Millie. I included it because there was a cat theme emerging this morning, and so I have nothing to say apart from this is Millie. You laugh. Unfortunately, we found her dead in the garden, and I had to bury her. Anyway, moving on. Another theme. My wife would be crying if she was here. Another theme is the always-on nature of social media. This is this is old information. It will have got worse since this information was produced in January 2008. This is the rank ordering of activities engaged in by people while using media in declining order of popularity. Eating, doing housework, doing laundry, cooking, talking on the phone. Quick show of hands. How many of you have had your laptop on your lap and been watching TV in the last 2 weeks? Okay? And pretending to have a conversation with a loved one? And supervising a small child with a pair of scissors? We are increasingly, Google continuous partial attention. It's a fascinating topic. Continuous partial attention. We are increasingly paying continuous attention to very many things in a partial way. So we're thinking and crafting these Moodles and VLEs and clouds, the idea that we've got this kind of audience with an unquenchable thirst for our information, but the truth is they're not even paying attention. So how do we engage with people in this world? Just some stats nicked off that Google stats tool thing. People aged 12 to 24 are notching up 23 cumulative hours a day engaged in I've got no idea what that means. Anyway, next one, communities. I know you know this, and I know that every presentation about social media for the last 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 years probably include talk of communities, but we still haven't got it. Giannina Rossini, please raise your hand. You probably don't want to be outed. Hello, hello. I thought this was a brilliant comment on the back channel. Some of the comments on the back channel were good. If I have an underused VLE already in which no one collaborates, why would I want to sign up to yet another system? You can build whatever repository you want. You can get your monolith going, not hard. You know, place an order, done. But how do you foster that activity? How do you make your social space real? How do you get the ants scurrying around, creating those wonderful assets like Wikipedia or Flickr or whatever it happens to be in your world? I think we still approach this from a constructionist point of view. We still approach it like it's kind of drag and drop, and it's like, okay, insert community here, push publish, ding, oh. And then tumbleweed, digital tumbleweed blows through it for the next 3 years. And I think there are ways to get better at this, but I think the metaphors, the language, the thinking needs to be much more gardening rather than construction. It needs to be much more about trimming, nurturing, growing, developing, cultivating, other gardening words. It's fundamentally organic, and it's one of those words along with leverage that's overused in digital presentations, but it is organic. And you know, I'm reminded of how Flickr, when they started, personally greeted every new registrant to Flickr. You know, are we doing that, or are we trying to do that, or is it just like some big cold warehouse where we want people to have fun and hang out? This is really old and out-of-date information, but a study was done a couple of years ago into Wikipedia, YouTube, Yahoo Groups, and Dig to try and understand the social dynamics. And I think whilst the data is out of date, the insight is still useful. And that is that 1%, or sometimes massively less, did a hell of a lot of the content creation. And then 9% were the kind of editors. They embellished, they rated, they reviewed, they commented. And then 90% consumed that content. Now, the metrics will be different in every social space. We might have a really engaged small audience where more than 50% are content creators. But I think what's useful about this insight is how valuable the 1% are, how the grit of sand that becomes the pearl, how that's so tiny and yet so manageable. You know, if we're working in education and technology and we want our social initiatives to work, have we thought about how we nurture, cultivate, and grow our 1%? I think there are also smart technology ways to create human connectivity and a soul to some of the spaces we create. So this idea of neighborhoods. When you buy something from Amazon, people who bought this also bought something else. When you listen to music on Last FM, starting to compare and contrast your listening tastes to other people's listening tastes, which can end up giving you the very best and most interesting recommendations, but also enable you to foster relationships with people you may never even meet. So although I'm saying that there's this kind of gardening aspect to it all and this human cultivation, there are also maybe technology ways that we can build in this stuff. The fourth theme that I think is really, really interesting and growing in interest for me about something that we can relate to education and technology is gaming. So I think, you know, there are academics who are studying how people learn through video games and all of that stuff. I thought a really useful or interesting little nugget of a story was how some of the most interesting stuff happening with the Toyota Prius, which is the hybrid car, is that it presents a number on the dashboard, which is your miles per gallon. And what they have noted is that how the drivers of the car start to gain that number. That number becomes the major driver of their behavior while driving the car. So they start to try and optimize that number because it's a game. And it's like, you know, other people say, I try and beat the time that the TomTom says it will take me to get home. That sounds insane. This one's nice. It's all about sustainability. But, you know, are we thinking about this? Are we creating in our social, educational, digital places some sort of score that rewards the behaviors we're looking for? Some sort of metric that encourages some basic human kind of incentives? Tom, I keep talking about Tom like I'm in love with him. I'm not. I'm normally horrible about him, but he's not here, so I'll be nice. My business partner, Tom, he's like me. We bonded over food. We love eating food, but he's got into running. And for him, Nike Plus is this really powerful kind of lever and tool that's getting him to do the right thing. And the reason why he's behaving in the way that he wants to, but often wouldn't normally, is because of the public, this idea of gaming, but this public exposure to how much running he's done. He finds himself engaged in little competitions with other runners in Brighton who can run the 10K the quickest, and he will know some of them, but not all of them. And that data that I showed you that was being scattered across the web, that commenting that goes on, whether it's his sister saying, oh, well done, Tom, or whether it's like another runner saying, haha, you're rubbish, or whatever it is, that's encouraging the right behavior. And I think more and more social spaces online are encouraging this stuff. So from Facebook, they've added this fantastic little feature, which is really low-fi, which is just like. You know, like how can we build in really low-friction kind of interaction into the social spaces we have? It doesn't cost me anything. I don't even have to write a comment. I'm that lazy, but I can just give a thumbs up. Or Blip FM, which has not really got any momentum or kind of, it's not going anywhere as a social space particularly. But it was really interesting. When it first came out, you only had a certain amount of props, and a prop was like a like. And when one of your mates in Blip FM sort of recommended a tune that you thought was really cool, you could give them props, and it sort of fostered this whole kind of social currency thing. I'm probably losing you a little bit, so I'm going to move on. Real time. I don't know how many of you have been to sort of really digital events recently, but everyone is kind of talking about real time now. Google and Facebook are both rumored to have tried to buy Twitter. And the reason they want to buy Twitter is not because lots of people say what they had for breakfast, but because taken as a whole, Twitter is this massive cauldron of conversation. It's this active, real-time frenzy of conversation. And real-time demands different things from us. And how will the educational organizations of the future operate in a real-time world? So when, I don't know how many of you know, probably lots, but when the whole Iran thing was happening, the way that Twitter and Flickr and YouTube were used was fascinating, and that was happening in real time. It reminds me, I went to see, where's Bill from University of Sussex? I went to the opening of the bee thing, the bee laboratory at Sussex. It was just amazing. Thinking about bees and social behavior of insects, and thinking about humans and how bees, sorry, you're not on watch now, I'm not going to ask you anything. It's got to be like, oh my God. Bees, yeah, interesting. Look into bees. That would be good, wouldn't it? Tell the Vice-Chancellor, yeah, the website's down again. I've been researching bees. There's this thing an American fighter pilot invented called the OODA loop. And it gets taught in military colleges, I'm told. I mentioned this at Henley Management College, and this Indian general got really excited. He was like, yes, I understand social media. I know the OODA loop. But the OODA loop, when you're, like, I'm going to fly some fighter jets for you. When you're flying fighter jets, you can tell I've got 2 little boys under 4. When you're flying fighter jets, the one that survives, if they're fighting, is the one that can react the quickest. And it's as simple as that. It's life or death. So this looks like a very kind of engineering model, but the quicker you can observe what's going on, orient yourself within that environment, decide what to do and act, the more likely you are to live. And I think that what's affecting organizations, whether they're educational or business or political or anything, today, because of the internet, is how quickly can you go through the OODA loop? And it's an iteration, you constantly go through it. But how, I mean, are we doing 3-year planning? Are we doing massively long-term structural programs? Or are we iterating with any real frequency? Are we giving ourselves to build in the learnings more quickly? Are we responding quickly enough? Are we geared up to respond quickly enough? I don't know. 6 of 8, we're nearly there. 6th theme is transparency. So on the left-hand side, anyone recognize the stars? eBay on the right-hand side? Amazon, eBay, post-lunch slump. Ratings and reviews. Apparently kind of, apparently shallow, actually quite profound in their impact on organizations. This happened earlier. I don't know how many of you saw it. Who was the best speaker at #FOTE09 this morning? Oh my God! It's like the crushing press of real-time feedback. Jeez, that's the OODA loop for you. Imagine if you could get that information on the fly. I probably could if I looked at my phone. But the point is that ratings and reviews is coming to a place near us, whether we are a dentist or an academic or a strategist or a technician or whatever. Increasingly, it's a restaurant owner, we can rate and review you. There are whole sophisticated websites that make it very easy for me to set you up and start rating and reviewing you and sharing those results with everyone I know in real time. But ratings and reviews, whilst terrifying to the cynical or the kind of as yet unaware, are hugely powerful in helping us accomplish our goals. So I was at a presentation recently where a guy from Argus stood up. Actually, it wasn't recently. It was about a year ago. And he told us about what they'd learned through ratings and reviews. For example, the ratings and reviews they got were much more positive than the cynics or the people fearing might have expected. Lots of, 53% 5 stars, 9% 1 star. Also, getting that OODA loop, getting that feedback in real time, isn't it great to know very quickly what your one-star products are? You can act on it. They had, tons of reviews across tons of products, but this is the killer piece of information, I think. Products with reviews get 10% higher conversion rate than without. Conversion rate is the number of people going on to do what you want them to do. So how are we harnessing this in education? How are we embracing ratings and reviews? I don't know. I said that to a couple of academics, and they hit me with a lot of challenges around students might not know what's good for them and stuff like that. They probably don't, but anyway, it's not going to go away. It's coming to politics. They work for you. Many of you will know the website. Punch in your postcode, hit return. You can find out how the MP voted. You can find out what their contact details are. The veneer of institutions is being peeled back, whether educational or business or whatever. So how can we run into that future rather than try and resist it and hide from it? How can we run towards it? Organizations like Starbucks doing crowdsourcing stuff, crowdsourcing the fancy word for asking for ideas transparently online. On this website, I can make a suggestion to Starbucks, and then other people that come to this website can either vote that idea up or down. So this idea, recycling cold cups, they're saying those clear plastic cups that Starbucks offers, they don't have a recycling bin for it. 24,000 people voted that this was a good idea. In 12 months, Starbucks has had 70,000 ideas submitted to it. 94 have been kind of taken into action, and 70 of them are actually live and operating today. That is the OODA loop. That is organizations, big organizations, moving at the speed of the internet. 7, the physical internet. I think all of the sci-fi, cyber stuff, which is great and really excellent literature, is sort of quietly happening in real life. This is my son. He is 4. His name is Jack. He's walking down the road. Those aren't plugged in. This is not to do with that. But the point is that Jack, without any education or formal education, took a photo of Oliver, his younger brother, using my iPhone. So he has learned the gestural interfaces that come with the iPhone. Other kids have learned how to use Wiimotes. This is the physical internet. The internet, the first generation of the internet, I think, was about the internet online. But what's happening at the moment, which is fascinating, is that the internet is coming into everyday life. So whether it's Street View, where I can hold something and be in real life, not bound to a desk, but I can actually see around me what the buildings should look like. Or this application, which is on the Android platform, which will scan a barcode. In real time, it will look up that barcode and work out what the product is. And then it will then use your GPS location to find where that product is also sold locally and allow you in real time to compare and contrast the price of the item in other local places. So that, for me, is this manifestation of the internet, using the internet in the real world. This is a bit more of a frivolous project, but I think it reinforces the point, by an agency called Poke, who are next door or close to a bakery where they love to buy the cakes and breads and stuff from the bakery. And so what they set up, a bakery isn't really very kind of Twitter-friendly. You know, people wear hairnets and there's a lot of flour and stuff around. So what they did was they bolted a little unit to the wall where the bakers could choose from a dial about what they just baked freshly. So here we've got croissant. And then that's hooked up to Twitter, and it would just tweet going, "I've got croissants ready." It's amazingly cool. Nike Plus again. You know, Nike Plus, that's what Nike Plus is doing. It's taking physical, real-world activity measured through a widget that goes in your shoe and then pumping it up into the internet and using what the internet can bring to the equation to do stuff. Finally, I think there's something really interesting happening, and this is relevant to education in terms of expertise and authority and where we go to learn, is this thing about curators. So new people are building their audiences, small and big, based on their passion or interest or ability in a particular topic. So I learn. I am passionate about learning, and I learn, and I'm interested in doing an MBA, and I would only want to do an MBA at a really top business school. And so potentially I might be worth, to the right business school, 30 or 40 grand, which is a ridiculous amount of money. And I may never do it, but in the meantime, I'm following this guy on Twitter called Ulcc, who is an incredible person, and who writes, he started out just writing a blog, and then he's been recruited by the Harvard Business Review to write a blog for them. But every day, you know, this is just in the period of look, those were all 13 hours ago. He's just sharing links and writing content, and he, for me, is curating an area that I am learning about. I don't need to do loads of Googling and research or go to a lecture to learn about this kind of business, the future of business stuff. I learn it from Ulcc. So he's the curator in that particular area. Dan McQuillan is a client of ours, but he's really interested in how social activism kind of campaigning and activism in general can happen using digital tools. And again, I follow him and I learn about all of this mad stuff, whether it's in Chechnya, how do you say it? Chechnya. I was going to sound like an idiot then. Chechnya or whatever, I'm kind of rambling. Or you can follow the Brighton feed on Twitter, and you can just, they're curating all of the feeds about Brighton. So where does all of this leave us? I have absolutely no idea. But I think some of those things are important, and I hope that you, as experts, will be able to make a dotted line between what I've come out with and what you really know is reality. So thank you very much.